Recently, I coached a high school player who was bigger, stronger, and more athletic than me. During his evaluation, he was crushing forehands, backhands, and serves, but then when we played points together, he couldn't win a single one. Okay, well actually, he did win 1 point out of 5 service games, almost a golden set. How is that possible? Well, the bottom line is he didn't know how to harness his natural power and consistently put the ball where he wanted it to go. Here's how I taught him how to do that so that he could start winning points without being careful and tentative. First, he had to learn what technical elements make the ball go where it goes. It all comes down to this magic phrase: the face sends it, the path bends it. Here's what that means in practical terms, and physics nerds, I understand that it's much more complicated than this, but when it comes to learning these principles, simple is better at first. So the ball is only touching the strings or racket face for a couple thousandths of a second, way faster than the blink of a human eye. And in that instant, wherever the strings are facing, the ball will start off in that direction. When the strings are angled up or open, the ball will go up. When the strings are angled straight or flat, the ball will go straight. And when the strings are angled down or closed, the ball will go down. That's the face sends it. At that same instant the ball touches the strings, whatever direction the racket is moving, up, down, or sideways, will determine what kind of spin is on the ball, which causes the ball to curve or bend as it travels through the air. For example, topspin is created when the racket is traveling upward at contact. Backspin is created when the racket is traveling downward at contact. And if the path of the racket is perfectly in line with the angle of the strings at contact, then the ball won't have any meaningful spin in either direction. Armed with that information, you can reverse engineer any tennis miss and figure out what adjustment to make on the next swing to hit exactly the type of shot that you meant to. Here's a quick example of that with my student. I challenged him to hit 5 shots in a row, cross court, and past the service line. One shot traveled too high and without enough spin to bend the ball back down into the court in time. And on the very next swing, he slightly closed his racket face and dropped his racket head a little bit lower to create a more vertical path. The result? A lower shot over the net with more curve, which kept the ball in play. When you hit the net in tennis, on the other hand, it almost always means that your racket face was too closed. So on the very next shot, if you turn your hand a few degrees upward to open the racket face slightly, you'll clear the net. Again, physics nerds, we're keeping this really simple for the sake of learning. There's more variables and dynamics at play than this, but wrapping your head around the fundamentals so that you can make the right adjustment in real life is the most important first step. One more key element always at play is the speed of your swing, how fast the racket is physically moving. The slower the racket is moving, the less sensitive these variables are, but also the less competitive your shot is going to be. In other words, when your racket face is slightly more open than you wanted, but you swing really slow and carefully, the ball will still stay in play because it isn't moving very fast. On the other hand, if you swing really, really fast, then having your swings just a degree or two too open, meaning angled upwards, and you're going to overshoot the court by a ton unless you also add a lot of topspin. Throughout our training together, I was encouraging my student to commit to a 6 out of 10 swing speed so that he could focus exclusively on the face of the racket and the path of the racket. During our evaluation together, before we started keeping track of score, he was pounding shots at 8 or 9 out of 10 and frequently completely losing control of where the ball went. When I gave him the challenge of making 5 forehands in a row, on the other hand, he was slowing down to like a 3 or a 4 out of 10 in an attempt to keep the ball in play. The best players at your local courts are able to maintain a steady, confident swing speed without having to slow down to keep the ball in play because they understand how to adjust the face of their racket and the path of the racket at contact. With those principles in mind, my student was able to put 5 forehands in a row, cross court, and past the service line with a 6 out of 10 tempo. Then, he did the same thing going down the line. Then he applied the same concepts to his serve to put a bunch in play in a row without slowing down like he was during our match play. Then it was time to test his new skills and awareness in some point play again. It was literally like playing against a different person. Earlier in the day, all I had to do was just get 1 or 2 balls in play at any speed, and I would win the point. Now, my student is actually engaging in controlled yet competitive rallies with me, setting up patterns and winning points. It was a night and day difference that I was super excited about, and I hope learning these principles helps you make similar improvements. Thanks for watching.